Good evening, everyone. It's great to see all of you here today at the gallery for this talk in conjunction with the Neglected Dimension. My name is Jolene, and I'm your host for tonight's program. The Neglected Dimension explores the period from the 1960s onwards when calligraphy and abstraction became prominent modes of artistic production in Islamic art in Indonesia. This exhibition just opened on the 7th of July and will run until 25th of February next year. Today's talk focuses on Haryadi Suadi's experimentations with printmaking and reverse glass paintings in Indonesia. And we are very thrilled to have his son and collaborator, Radi Arwinda, and scholar Jérôme Samuel here with us today. Before we begin, I would like to give a quick rundown of today's program. We will start off with curator Anissa Rahadiningtyas' introduction of the talk. And then Radi Arwinda will then speak with us more about Haryadi Suadi's practice as his son and collaborator, followed by Jérôme Samuel, who will share more about Javanese glass painting in Indonesia. This will be followed by a short discussion between all of them, and then followed by a Q&A session at the end of the program. It is now my pleasure to introduce my colleague and exhibition curator, Anissa Rahadiningtyas, who will be moderating today's program. Anissa Rahadiningtyas is an art historian who earned her PhD in art history at Cornell University for her research on the position and question of Islamic religiosity, rituals, and performances in works of modern and contemporary art in Indonesia. She is currently a curator of Islamic aesthetics in modern and contemporary Southeast Asia at National Gallery Singapore. Over to you, Anissa.
Thank you so much, Jolene, for a very kind introduction. And thank you so much, everyone. First of all, welcome to the National Gallery and welcome to the exhibition. This is the newest installment for Dalam Southeast Asia. And as Jolene has explained a little bit about the exhibition, is titled The Neglected Dimension. And the title itself is taken from an essay that was written in 1987 by an Indonesian critic, Sanento Yuliman, that talks about sort of the absence of spirituality in the history of modern art in Indonesia and perhaps in the region as well. So this is an exhibition that serves as the first step towards developing a more thorough and more in-depth research on Islamic aesthetics in modern and contemporary Southeast Asia. And hopefully we will have more exhibitions like this one. And so as mentioned, we are focusing on artists from Bandung, Ahmad Sadali, A.D. Pirous, Haryadi Suadi, and Arahmayani. And we are very honored to have Haryadi Suadi's family, Radi Arwinda and Risa Astrini, and Radi will be one of the speakers. And we'll start our conversation today. And we also have Dr. Jérôme Samuel, who's based in Bangkok right now, who will talk about the history of Javanese reverse glass painting. So Haryadi Suadi is a very well-known figure in Indonesia, but I think perhaps we, the reason to have this program to also introduce Haryadi to a broader audience in Singapore and in the region. And we are very happy to have a very good turnout. Thank you so much for coming all the way at 7 p.m. And finding this space here, which is like tucked inside the gallery. All right, so let me just introduce Radi. And Radi, if you would like to come to the fore. Radi Arwinda is a Bandung, Cirebon-based painter and printmaker known for juxtaposing Cirebonese visual cultures with American and Japanese popular art. He earned his PhD in visual art and design from the Bandung Institute of Technology in 2021. And since 2019, he has been the lecturer at the craft department, or Kria department, the Faculty of Art and Design, Bandung Institute of Technology. And as an artist, he has also exhibited widely and also involved in many residency programs, including in Singapore with the Grey Projects and a lot of other spaces as well. If you want to look for Radi's artworks, please follow him on Instagram. I don't have your info with me, but if you're interested, let me know. All right, so Radi will introduce Haryadi Suadi and his works. And some of the Haryadi Suadi's works are on this wall. Yes. All right, so Radi, please take your mic and start. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, evening everyone. My name is Radi. First of all, pardon of my English. I think I will mix it with Indonesian and will translate by. So, first of all, I want to introduce Haryadi Suadi. Haryadi Suadi was born in Cirebon, West Java, in 20 May 1938. From my father, Edo Suadi, and the mother, Emma Tarsima. Edo Suadi is also a postman, and Emma Tarsima is a housewife. Okay, sorry. Okay, Haryadi has two older brothers. She's the last son, and her name is Tarsyono Suadi and Kabul Suadi. Kabul Suadi has a similar interest with Haryadi, and the both of them become a lecturer and become an artist in ITB. And then when in high school, around 56 and 59, he participated in Cirebon Youth Art Community and exhibited his artworks for several times in local galleries. And then other drawing around Cirebon City was one of activity in art community, and the selected works are published in local magazine. This kind of Haryadi Suadi in high school. This one, and also he always do some painting models, and the models is his high school friends. Mostly his model is a girl. Yeah, maybe he tried to find a girlfriend. And then in 59, he decided to continue his studies on ITB because his interest drawing and painting. In ITB, he met the one of the most important person. He met his best friend. The name is Sutanto, and they are influence each other on their work, and their hobby is watching Hollywood movies, watching wayang, and have a inside joke that only both of them understand. Yeah, in '66 also Haryadi was active in an illustrator and children book, and also cartoonist for the student newspaper on campus. So the inside joke with Sutanto often become an inspiration for making social criticism expressed in form of caricatures. And then, yeah, the mostly inspiration in Haryadi Suadi's artwork is he's so very obsessed with wayang since childhood, and traditional, and he loves the story, the ornaments, and the symbol. And the other is like a folklores, local horror stories, temple reliefs, batik, pawukon, and also wayang beber is also other inspiration of his work. He captured the essence of the visual form of symbol in lines, shape, and silhouette, like shadow in wayang. So he mixed his traditional inspiration with ITB's mindset, modernist mindset, and found his signature style in woodcut prints. And then this is the biggest woodcut, he made in 1965, around 120, like 120 and 180 centimeters, quite big. And then his hard work and dedication has paid off. In 1967, he has been awarded for the best woodcut print in Sozobiju 2 Award, Sozobiju 2 Award initiated by Tenji Osaka Museum. And then the awards encouraged him to create more art, then inspired by well-known spiritual stories that symbolization has personal experience. His work has various major themes, such as have a self-portrait, and then mythical creatures, and this is various times, various years, yeah, with the various years, and then spiritual couples, like Adam and Eve, and then a woman, okay, and also honeymoon, and spiritual journey, Islamic spiritual journey, is called Buraq, symbolization of Prophet Muhammad. So Isim dan Raja, amulet and talisman symbol, and then spiritual connection. So in 1970, he went to Osaka, Japan, so to Expo 70 in Osaka. It's an influential event for him. It developed his mindset and maturing his work. He felt confident in his idea to mixing Eastern tradition with modernism was the best way to improve and redefine his identity as Indonesian at that time. So this is one of the biggest influencer for Haryadi Suadi. He met Shiko Munakata in Japan. So Shiko Munakata woodcut prints has the similar point of view with him when he delivered the message of traditional Eastern wisdom in modernism visual language. And then in 1972, Haryadi did some deeper research for traditional arts in his hometown, Cirebon. It was the first time he met Rastika, the traditional glass painting artist who created a symbolic relationship where Haryadi improved the depth of his tradition aspect in modern works, and Rastika developed a modern aesthetic in his traditional works. And then traditional glass painting is usually feature wayang figures or fragment of folklore filled with narrative symbol of local wisdom. Besides for decorative aspect, the function of the artifact is for spiritual expression, and it believed has a mythical content for certain purposes. So, after his meeting with Rastika, Haryadi was inspired to create glass painting that mix the wisdom of Cirebon tradition with the visual language of modernism. The object paintings similar with his woodcut works, such as spiritual figures, and also wayang and calligraphic, wayang with calligraphic. And then the calligraphic, Arabic calligraphic in mythical creatures. And then Isim and Raja, like an amulet. It's mixed from Arabic, Balinese, and Chinese, ancient Chinese. And then nature landscape. And astral journey. And mythical realm. The mythical realm is like a demon realm, and then hell. That's the landscape of hell, and Adam in heaven, like with the demon. So it is Adam and Eve. It's also connection between human and astral creatures. It's like it's pesugihan. Well, it means pesugihan means make a deal with the demon for get rich and famous. And then marriage. So an Islamic spiritual journey. So is the more in 1998 till the 2000, Haryadi made an experimental work with serography and mixed with collage. And then the theme song is Spirit of 1998 Indonesian Reform, which is symbolized by famous Jayabaya's prophecy entitled Zaman Eden, or the Crazy Age. And the text is all about the translation of Jayabaya prophecy. So another painting on canvas in 2002, Haryadi and Sutanto made a duet exhibition titled Tension and Harmony. They were challenged to make a painting on canvas. The exhibition provided a new experience for both for them and strengthened the friendship that had existed. So this is the painting on canvas. So the object is similar with the previous artworks, and it's more abstraction with the calligraphic. And then also he made a drawing. Sometimes it's for poem books and illustration purposes on magazine or on newspapers. So this pen on paper. And then some of works use a cover illustration for various books, magazine, and publication. And one of them is Jérôme's book. And then in collaboration, we have a collaboration in 2012. The family made a collaborative exhibition between parents and children entitled Purwawiwitan Daksinawakasan, which means a process of mutual devotion between children and parents that is done truly from beginning to end until made a complete cycle. So this is the work. We experiment with the embroidery, which Haryadi Suadi woodcut made with embroidery on canvas. And then light sculptures is based on Haryadi Suadi, me, and Risa artworks. So woodcuts is conventional by Haryadi Suadi. And then the painting on canvas, it mixed between me, Risa, and Haryadi. And then also sculptures, big sculptures. So, yeah, it's in January 8, 2016, Haryadi Suadi passed away on the age of 77 and inherited the spirit of this process of redefining traditional wisdom values that continues to adapt with times in work of art. He hopes that the spirit will continue to be preserved and will be passed on the next generation until infinite future. Yeah. So, yeah. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Radi, for sharing, the richness of Pak Haryadi's works. As you can see, we cannot talk really in depth about each of the works because each works would require maybe an hour or so to sort of like just get into it. And maybe we need like 2 days conference just to like sort of get through all of the symbolisms and all of the histories of all of the images that Haryadi has on his works. So we have some of the prints and the glass paintings as well in this exhibition. And talking about glass paintings, so we've seen a lot more of glass paintings works, and I think it's really great to have Jérôme here to talk more about the context, sort of the history, and also a little bit of an explanation about the making tradition of glass painting in Java and in Cirebon. And Jérôme also worked with Pak Haryadi. We visited Pak Haryadi a few times for your research on glass paintings as well. And you see one of the books that you produced based on the research. So I would like to introduce you a little bit. So Jérôme Samuel is a researcher and a full professor in Indonesian and Malaysian studies at National Institute of Language and Oriental Civilization in Paris. And he's a director of the Research Institute of Contemporary Southeast Asia, and now he's currently based in Bangkok. He's also the editor-in-chief of the journal Archipel in Paris. And his work focuses mainly on Indonesian Malay, its language policies, terminologies, didactics, and mutual intelligibility with Malaysian Malay. And for the past 20 years, he has been conducting extensive research on traditional and contemporary reverse glass paintings in Indonesia, particularly from Java and Bali. And to this end, through numerous field surveys, he has built a database of over 2,500 items and has published numerous articles on the subject. And on that note, please, Jérôme, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Anissa, and thank you, Jolene and the NGS for inviting me. And thank you to you for being together here to speak about Haryadi. I met him several times in the beginning of the 2000s, and it was great, and I was always welcomed by him in Bandung. I took a lot of pictures in the paintings there, glass paintings, but as we've seen, he used several medium, not only glass. So I would like to give some context about the general context related to, it will be related in the last part of my presentation to Haryadi. Why is it important to make a link between Haryadi and glass painting? Because he's one of the very few Indonesian painters who get their formation and who learned to as a painter from the academy and who used that medium, one of the very few. And it happened at a time whereby glass painting and glass for the painters met a new developments, especially in Cirebon and in other parts of Java, after having been used as a traditional medium since the late 19th century. So there are two reasons why it's important to make a link between both. Although, of course, once again, Haryadi has used a lot paper and other medium than glass. So glass painting has some things very specific. You see the painting, the picture through the glass. So the glass will protect the pigment and give the special reflect to the picture itself. It's a process completely different with painting on canvas or on paper. You begin with the detail and you finish with the background. So it's a reverse process. And it's very easy to copy, to make copies, very easy. From paper or from glass, very easy. So it has been widely used in Java in the major part of the 20th century. There are two phases in the use of glass by Javanese painters, what I call traditional glass painting from the 19th century until the 1970s, and from 1970s onwards, revival of glass paintings, which has been influenced by other practitioners and other people involved in that process than just painters, as it was the case before. So this is the idea where you may find glass paintings, traditional glass paintings, mainly in Central and East Java, including Cirebon and North Coast. Maybe in some parts of Central of West Java, but in very few places. And this, during that time, millions of pieces have been produced. It was something very common in houses, just like furnitures. So, as you see, glass is just 1 million among others. The same hero here on glass, on leather for wayang, and on wood for this kind of piece of wood which is used to hang creases, which name is Tlawungan. You have single figures, you have double figures. All the examples I give here, except in the last part of my presentation, are originating from Cirebon and its surroundings. This one was painted in the 1950s, in 1950. You will find tableau, this is the following one. Yes, with heroes from the Mahabharata here, and with Krishna and Samar. But if we pay more attention to this, to some details of this painting, we can see that wayang and Islam are closely related, because on the lower part of the picture, you can see written the name of God and of its prophet here. Another painting related to Islam, Burak, of course. You have a Burak over there, painted by Haryadi, which is a very popular figure all over the Muslim world, from Indonesia to Morocco, and Syria and Egypt and other places. Holy places too, and some of pieces were produced in Cirebon, not so many, very few, which was not very common, but it was praised by the people at that time. This one was painted in 1920s, the other one in the 1950s. And you have something which is closer to Haryadi and the themes and the figures who were interesting for him, like this, an apotropaic figure, apotropaic words and figure called Srabat. And this is a protective figure to protect houses and people against evil, against sickness, against thieves, which is called Srabat, and which is specifically found in Cirebon for this figure, mixing the head of Ganesh, but it's an Islamized version of Ganesh. And you can see the model of wood, which was carved from the circles around one of the palaces in Cirebon, probably. Yeah. Another kind of figure which are linking the palaces with glass painting. Another theme is this one, which is the Tiger Ali. Ali was the nephew of the Prophet, and he was called or considered as a tiger or as a lion, more specifically, because of his bravery when he was on fighting. So this is a kind of figure which is strongly related to the palace, with a carving from the palace and the picture and the painting on glass too. Next one. Once again, but with much more calligraphy here, linking Ali and Zulfikar, the sword of Ali, with words, sentences, and glass. This glass painting is a new one, and one of the symbols used in the palace, in several palaces, not only in Cirebon. What we can see in most of these glass paintings produced in Cirebon is a certain vision of the space. So the space is divided in three parts. You have the upper world, Lalangit, the world of action for humans and gods, which is Lalakon. Lakon means story. And you have the lower world, Lalata. And these words are represented or symbolized using these idioms you can see here. Next one. Anissa? Oh, yeah. Okay. With clouds for the upper words, Megamendung, with rockery for the lower word, Wadasan, and in the middle, we can have various themes or various elements, including pandanus leaves and roots, daun pandan, represented here on this glass painting. And beside this, very oftenly, you will find calligraphy. In this case, you have calligraphy on the roof of the building. What's in the square? This is a magic square, not with letters, but with ciphers, numbers. Yeah, numbers. So you will have these elements, and more specifically, the colored layers to represent the rocks, Wadasan, and the clouds, which are called now in Cirebon Gradasi. This can be found outside of Cirebon, but this is has been stressed during the arrival as a specific feature of the Cirebonese painting, although it is not complete. I'm not convinced. Next one. So now, if we are speaking about the revival, what happened during the 1950s, 70s, right at the moment where Haryadi became aware or more aware about glass painting and met with Rastika. I'll show a few examples of Rastika's painting. So we faced a kind of revival, although, well, traditional glass painting was vanishing. Well, it was less trendy, and people shifted to other medium, other kind of pictures, like posters with pop stars or things like that. They were less interested with glass painting, but it has been renewed by some painters, by people from the academy, like Haryadi, and by politicians, and by people from the economic world. So, and specifically, or more specifically, in two places in Java, around Cirebon, or in the city of Cirebon, and around Yogyakarta and Surakarta, more specifically Yogyakarta. So we set aside Surakarta and Yogyakarta and focus again on Cirebon. So the very first univers of that was called Rastika from Gegesi Kulon, which is a small village north to Cirebon. He was a young painter at that time. And what he painted was based older paintings. So the themes and the topics are right the same as it was before, but he made some changes and important changes. Here, for instance, you can compare these two kinds of srabat, the traditional srabat and the srabat painted by Rastika. Next, please. For another theme, Gajah dan Banteng, which model can be found on carved on one of the doors of the Palace Kaspuhan in Cirebon. He put it on glass here, and this is strongly related not only with Islam, but more specifically with one very well-known and very active brotherhood in Cirebon and in Western Java as a whole, which is Sataria. He learned and tried to expand the chromatic spectrum by using new colors and combining new colors, much more diverse as it was before. Here, the theme is taken from a palace, once again, with the royal carriage of Keraton Kaspuhan. Next, please. He organized the space too. Instead of giving rockery on the bottom, and Megamundung and clouds on the upper part, he mixed. So in this case, it's not maybe the better example because here Arjuna is in a cave, so he has rockery everywhere. But anyway, it changed a lot of things in the look the people had to the space and the structuration of the space. During the 1990s, so at that time Rastika was still active, new and young painters tried to develop new techniques, like this one, where first the painter used two sheets of glass. You can see the shadow of the first, if you have a closer look to the clouds, the shadow of the first sheet to the second one, and some of them they used that kind of texturized background. They put glue on the background, and then they put the color, and this gives the bubbles you can see on the background. The theme itself remains traditional, and they continue using rockery and clouds to structure the space. But these motifs, clouds and rockery, which were used in much more intensive way, and you will find rockery and clouds everywhere. Like here on the carriage, on the wheel of the carriage, on the left and on the right, clouds up and at the bottom too. It had a great success. It was helped by a public institution who commissioned a lot of monumental paintings for government institutions here, for instance, in the railway station or other places. And next, please. And the private sectors commissioned a lot of paintings too, especially in hotels. You can imagine when a hotel with 150 rooms, they commission 2 pictures for each room, additionally with pictures for the other places. Well, for that painters at that time, it was a huge income, but they didn't get richer actually. And you can we get back just for even on the streets. It was, and it's still possible to find even big glass painting. It's for everyone. Next one. And Cirebon was considered as a specific brand, and people were saying at that time, until now, that Cirebon is a national center for glass painting in Indonesia, the place where glass painting is originating, which is not the case, I think. So this is a kind of glass painting for an Islamic audience. Next, yeah. And for everyone, this is for expats, with the Holy Family, and it's not for the Indonesian audience, I guess. Yeah. Next, please. Now we move to the academy a little bit. And this is an example of how a painting produced from the academy, Basuki Abdullah, has been so popular in Indonesia in the 1940s, 50s, that glass painters, they took the theme, they took the pictures, and they put it on glass. Next, please. Conversely, you have some very few painters who were interested by glass. And, well, the main of them is Haryadi, of course. But Hendra Gunawan, he painted a few paintings on glass. This is many fakes, but this one is not a fake. So now Haryadi Suadi, and I would like to stress here the sources of inspiration, because he was picking up things, ideas, forms everywhere. He was a collector. He collected everything. That's right. Yeah. And wherever he found something interesting, as for the form, much more the form, I would say, than the meaning. He reproduced it on his pictures, either on glass, on paper. Yes, please. So, for instance, here we have to try to see, this is a glass painting, and there, the head of the horse is taken from the horse in that very famous painting by Pablo Picasso, Guernica. Just the head. So he picked up something, just a single thing. Next, please. Or here, the Bandaka one, so the 9 semi-heroes, semi-gods of the Javanese shadow theater. You can see, not the original, but the version painted by Rastika's son, Kusdono. And on the left, something which maybe inspired him for the background. And this is a painting by Sonia Delaunay, Autumn, Musim Gugur. Yeah. This is the painting we've seen already, but this makes several things. You have yes, of course, Gajah and Banteng, which comes from Rasika and which formally comes from the palace. But beside this, if you pay attention to this landscape, you have a lot of animals. And this records us reminds us to a very specific theme of glass painting, traditional Javanese glass painting, Nabi Sulaiman, so the prophet Solomon, speaking to the animals. So he mixed two different themes, two different ideas in the same glass. And additionally, he used mirror. And in Indonesia, mirror as a medium for painting is considered as specifically Chinese. It's more expensive than just glass. This is Islam, yes, of course. But you can compare the building and the heroes and the people speaking around here. And this come from a theme from Central Java, which is the meeting of the 9 apostles of Java who met in the Mak and had a discussion together to organize the Islamization of Java. So this is not Cirebonese, not at all. Next, please. This is not that much Cirebonese, but so much Haryadi, actually. So the couple you find here, bride and groom, this is Central Java. You will find a lot of that kind of pictures in Central Java. I never seen one in Cirebon, bride and groom, never. Maybe they are, but I don't know. So, and this is, you see around this couple, you will have heads, figures, with other symbols of sources of inspiration. Next, please. So clearly this is Chinese, but partly Chinese too, because if you have a closer look to the right, you can see that Kuan Yin is sitting on the tiger. This is the tiger with calligraphy. This is the tiger of the palace. It's not a Chinese tiger. Tiger from the Cirebonese palace. Besides this, what's interesting is to see how he uses these motifs I've mentioned earlier, the clouds and the rocks. He changed the shape. He uses as according to his fantasy, actually. And last point, if you have a look at the title of the painting on the left, it's not Guanyin or Kuan Yin, as people say in Cirebon. It's just Dewi. Why? This painting was given or purchased by the National Gallery in Jakarta, and in the 1970s or 1980s, it was difficult to acknowledge the Chinese source of something. So they used that title, Dewi, goddess, which is more neutral. It's not seen as Chinese. This makes everything. So you have the Javanese calendar with this small square, Pewukon. You have something related to magic for richness, Pesugihan, which is Javanese too. You have the use of characters which are not legible actually, and which can be found in Islam, in Javanese Islam, as well as in Bali, and which is in Bali is called Rarajahan. In Java, is maybe more known as Isim, but it's basically approximately the same. And you will find China or Chinese features again with this acupuncture chart everywhere and the use of mirror. Actually, acupuncture charts, it was quite usual to see it in the doctors, Chinese doctors who were practicing acupuncture in Java, oftenly, and as well until now, they will have the chart inside their room. And as the last one, this one has so few to see with China or with Islam or with Cirebon, just to have the head of a wayang figure, and that's all. And topeng merah, so red mask. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jérôme, for a very informative and very illuminating history of glass painting and how it started, the sort of the history of it is still pretty much part of your research, because it's also a little bit more difficult to ascertain when glass painting became such a practice in Java, right? It's really great to see how it was revived, particularly in the 70s, and it's along the line of the new order under President Suharto's cultural policy of highlighting the diverse, right? It's about diversity, diverse ethnic groups, and its cultural productions in Indonesia. So that was really, really good. And also to talk about all the different origins, different sources that Haryadi engaged with. So yeah, thank you so much for that, and thank you. So yeah, perhaps we can probably just chat a little bit. I think it's also very interesting that, amongst, if we compare Haryadi, the figure of Haryadi and his practice in comparison, for example, with Ahmad Sadali or with A.D. Pirous, who are his seniors, right? And his teachers as well in Bandung. And Bandung has a very Bandung is a very modernist school. So to have Haryadi in Bandung is also very interesting, because from the works that you showed us in the beginning from 1965, it shows that Haryadi was already so interested in local forms and very much exploring that instead of a very sort of modernist abstract language of representations. So if I may ask, I don't know if Haryadi ever sort of shared with you how it was, when he was a student or when he was early in the 60s and the 70s, to sort of engage with a more, modernist, quote unquote, formalist, a very formal modernist, artist like Sadali and Pirous. Yeah.
The first time he explored wayang on a college, he was said to me that sometimes he feel proud with his culture, and also he's lonely. He's lonely. Why? Because he stand just alone for practicing the traditional things. So the partner is only Tesutanto. Tesutanto is also practicing the make a traditional becoming a modern. Yeah. So maybe in that era, it's only two of them do some mix between traditional and modern, because the both of them, so inspired by Picasso. So thank you for the Picasso things. Yeah, they have same language, like when they see the pictures, the painting, and they have same frequencies, like, oh, this is good. Yeah, I agree. They have a agreement of one of the aesthetic. Yeah, I think like that. Yeah.
But it was probably a challenge for him to sort of keep exploring, keep experimenting with wayang, with, in the midst of Bandung as a modernist school in the 70s and 80s. Probably it was a challenge for him to sort of develop.
Yeah. It's just challenging, but in maybe on 80s, like when Desenta used the same formula, and they they use the traditional and becoming a modern. Yeah, yeah. First of all, he's lonely. He's only two of them, and after Haryadi had a award, yeah, yeah, their friends becoming try to make some to try to explore other other traditional things to becoming modern.
Right. Yes. So yeah. So the center is a design firm. It's this Design Center Association that was founded in 1973. I think it started in 1973 by A.D. Pirous, actually, one of the artists in this exhibition as well. And yeah, it's very interesting because the center really its sort of brief is to sort of develop what is modern and what is Indonesia. And a way to do so at the time period in the 70s and 80s was to look back to, to quote unquote traditional forms. So yeah, so then Haryadi became also important in that sense because it was a method that he was already doing at the time. It also brings me to questions to Jérôme, because you said that Haryadi was also very influential in sort of like popularizing Cirebonese glass painting. So can you, maybe talk to us, tell us a little bit more about that and what he has probably shared with you back then about the effort. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how he became in touch with Rustica and with glass painters. As I remember, he told me that during his, when he was a young, at school in Cirebon, he wasn't that much aware of glass painting, not really interested. And it came later, during the 70s. So, I don't know how, maybe Radi can explain us how he met with Rustica, who was, yes, a very gifted young painter, popular painter. But for sure, he was the link between the elites from Jakarta, political elites, cultural elites, and the painter who were active in Cirebon. I mean, that painter who can be called either traditional or for the revival, because there is no clear cut between both, actually. And he brought people to these small villages, Kulon and other villages north to Cirebon. A very famous collector of half French, half Indonesian told me that at that time, that collector, he was working in the museum in Jakarta, and he knew Haryadi, and he knew too Yopave, who was Minister of Youth and Tourism in Jakarta. He brought both to Cirebon Haryadi and brought both to Kulon, which it was not so far. Cirebon is just 180 kilometers from Jakarta, but at that time it was a long journey with very bad roads. So not a pleasant journey to go there, but through Haryadi, these people who were influential, who had access to the palace, who had access to Suharto, they discover with quotation signs, discover glass painting. And finally, well, he was acknowledged by the president and his wife who were interested in it. And if the president is interested in it, all the ministers will buy glass paintings, of course. And finally, the biggest glass painting ever made is until now kept in the Taman Mini in Jakarta. It's a huge one, and it was painted by Rustica. So he played a very important role. But this was putting again glass painting in a very specific place as a so-called traditional popular art of Java. And it didn't enter the academy, actually, and he didn't enter the contemporary painting in Indonesia. So as it was underlined, he's the only one who tried to mix both on glass and on other mediums. But glass, it's practically outside of this world of traditional, of a revivalist painter, was not used. So this gives him a very specific position and an important one.
Yes, thank you. So as an scholar who works on, who have looked at a lot of glass paintings from Java, from Cirebon, from Jogja. So when you look at Haryadi's, glass paintings, his different experimentations with forms and techniques in glass paintings, how would you see those paintings by Haryadi? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's not necessary to make a divide between glass or paper or canvas, because basically it's the same. It's him. What I see, what's striking to me is he takes inspiration in traditional shapes, traditional motifs, traditional ideas and themes, and he makes whatever he wants with it. So he's interested in the forms, not really interested in the meaning. That's why he was courageous enough to produce Rarajahan or Isim dan Raja, things related to magics for richness, which is not, well, it's not very well, it's difficult to speak about it in Indonesia today because, it's kind of black magic. So who wants to acknowledge that he is interested by black magic? I don't think Haryadi was interested in black magic, but he was interested in the forms.
Yes, yeah, thank you for that. I mean, I think you're right. I mean, in Haryadi's works, that this sort of division between painting on canvas and other forms of painting with different materials, which in a modernist sense, canvas or oil on canvas or acrylic on canvas always occupy a higher position, right? But I think what Haryadi is doing is try to sort of equalize, and also shows that glass paintings and painting on canvas, it has that quality that makes painting, and in a sense, its flatness, right? And that's what a lot of modernist abstract painters from the 40s and 50s in New York always emphasize. The modernity of the medium is the medium itself, that it's flat, it's flatness basically. So I think in a way that's also shows Haryadi's sort of positions on the modern, right? And so I think I would also like to open to the audience who are probably curious with so many different symbolisms you've seen, yes.
Maybe I would like to add something. It's not very surprising that Haryadi was interested in woodcut and etching too, because basically it's not very far from glass painting. You have this flat part with one color only. And we know, historically speaking, that there is a strong link between glass painting and etching. I mean, not in Indonesia, but everywhere in the world, in Europe too. It's important. So it's very, very coherent, very consistent from his part to use woodcut, etching, glass, besides canvas.
And the process itself, right? Radi, you do printmaking recently as well. And so the process itself, there is the sort of the idea of a reversed in the making of print as well, right? And yeah, do you think that it's sort of also inform Haryadi's fascination also with glass painting afterwards?
Yeah, I think it is coherent between the woodcut and the glasses, because it's mirroring. And then, especially in glass painting, when we paint beside of and then in the backside, it's kind of like an abstract painting. It's layering, but it's like an abstract painting. But in the front side, yeah, it's very neat. Yeah, it's a kind of two side of a human being. Yeah, it's like two side of human being. Yeah, and some kind of the paradox, like chaos and order. Sometimes it's glass in Java is also a symbol of the mirroring. It's a mirror of self. Yeah, for like a spiritual experience. Like, yeah, I think like that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so maybe I will open it up to the audience. Yes.
Jérôme. Hi, Jérôme. I've got a question about the Ganesan Sarabat. Is that right? Is it Ganesha Sarabat, the one that was by Radin Saleh?
Yes.
Is it the Radin Saleh?
Oh, no,
It's a different Radin
no.
Saleh.
No, yes, it's another one.
Okay.
Same name, but not the same.
Not the.
No,
so I was
definitely.
wondering why the departure in style. So okay, then that clarifies it. So this one is actually quite recent, from 1955.
No, it's
no, the other
another
one.
one before. It's one of the very first. Oh, yes,
This
is
one.
Yes.
So this is not the.
No. Yes, this was painted. You can see or read the date. It's I don't remember the day and the month, but it's a full date in 1955. So Radin
So it's
Saleh
not
was
not the old Radin Saleh. Okay,
died
thanks.
long time before. This it's a kind of apotropaic figure made to protect, linked to the palace. It's Islamized clearly. You can read on the sword and on the body of this figure, which is has a trunk like an elephant. But we know that Ganesh is linked to curating the sicknesses and things like this. So Ganesh is protective, and until now, in Bali, in many houses, you will find a small statue of Ganesh above the entrance to protect the house. So it's not very surprising to see this rabbit having the shape of the head of Ganesh.
It is very difficult to make out. It's the elephant-headed Ganesh. Though.
If you look at this part, then you'll see this is the elephant part, but yeah, sideways. And then so the hand, so instead of holding, the usual iconographies of Ganesh, in here you can see it's holding the sword of Ali actually, and it has the phrase, the Islamic phrase of Tawhid. And on here, there is also is it a fan, Jérôme? Do you know?
Yes, a fan or a mirror?
A fan or a mirror?
Yeah, the two possible interpretations. Yes.
What's the calligraphy in the body?
It's actually the same. It's very easy. You can see on the arm holding the sword. You see lam alif with la, which is the first word of the Shahada. So it's not very difficult to read it. Actually, anyone who can read Arabic or has an Islamic education, even limited, can read what's written on the. There are many other calligraphies which are much more difficult to read.
This is very widespread in Cirebon, the Srabat. Yeah.
This one, yes, you won't find this one outside Cirebon and the vicinity. So, and they have other Srabats, other figures like this one. One is like a turtle, another one mixing an elephant with a buffalo. But all seems to be specifically Cirebonese.
Yes.
I never seen it in Central Java.
Right. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, thanks for doing this. I didn't even know there was such a thing of reverse glass painting. I didn't even know that existed. So I'm glad to learn a little bit about that. I can see why wayang, somebody who's familiar with wayang, would really resonate with something like reverse glass painting, something that you said about mirroring. And that whole idea of kind of almost looking at different dimensions and different angles. So that's just a comment. I have a question actually on tying back to the theme of this this whole show, which is on the neglected dimension. And I was just reading your opening notes in there, that it really ties to calligraphy and abstraction. So I just wanted to understand, for today's presentation, as you talk about what is neglected, is it neglected or is it forbidden? You know, a lot of the symbols that you talk about here are really Shia symbols, which is not Indonesia. You know, that Indonesia is very Sunni, is my understanding. So are you talking about neglected as in these things were not talked about before, and so therefore it's neglected and it's come back, or is it forbidden, or is it, I mean, can you tie it back to the main theme?
Yeah, so the neglected part, I think, so when we look at the figure of someone like Haryadi within, you know, the sort of like the context of Indonesian modern art. So a lot of people, when they talk about abstraction, right, they will talk about Sadali, they will talk about Pirous. When they talk about Islamic art, modern Islamic art, they will talk about Sadali and they will talk about Pirous, because they also represent, you know, a very mainstream idea of modern art, but also on Islamic art, right? So the importance of Haryadi in this exhibition is that he's often overlooked in this, you know, in this sort of like constellation. So, I mean, he participated already in 1979, which is the first exhibition of modern calligraphy that Ahmad Sadali organized with Jérôme mentioned Iop Ave. He was the minister of tourism, and he was he worked in a foreign service before, and he collected a lot of works by Bandung artists. So Haryadi already participated in exhibitions of modern calligraphy since 1979 onwards, but since Haryadi also proposed a very different outlook or view on abstraction, and you can see it's a very different, it's not a modernist formalist abstractions like we imagine, right? It's an abstraction they're very much informed by local forms, by wayang, by shadow puppets, and also by the idea of illegibility. Because again, Jérôme and Radi mentioned about isim and rarajahan, which is talismanic traditions. So unlike Sadali or Pirous, who often incorporate Quranic calligraphy, which requires them then to actually present them in a legible form, because you cannot play with Quranic calligraphy, right? Like you have to present them as legible. Haryadi never incorporates Quranic calligraphy. It's he draws from Islamic talismanic traditions of isim and raja, because of the inherent sort of nature of talismans to be, it cannot be easily read, because there is an inherent secrecy to it. So illegibility also becomes a method for Haryadi, and to also show a different sort of like forms of popular, but also not so talked about of Islam. Islam, they're practiced in everyday life, right? In Cirebon. So it really, his works, I think, really shows, a very different imaginations of modern art and also of Islamic art. Yeah.
Ganesha here, that's Islamicized. Mm-hmm. I mean, that is like, it's like not something that would be welcome, for example, today, right? So the fact that, Islam is Islam, Hinduism is Hinduism, but in Indonesia both exist. But sometimes there's a denial of that, which is why I was kind of interested in your neglected dimension and whether or not some of this was actually forbidden, or at least not orthodox.
Yeah, well, I'm not a specialist of Islam, but I would say that since the 70 or 60 years ago, Islam in Indonesia has changed a lot. And that kind of representation are much less acceptable as it was the case in the 40s, 50s until the 60s. So it's maybe some people were disturbed or if not shocked by the use of these letters by Haryadi, Arab Gundul in Indonesian. Letters which are not linked one to the other because the letters are considered as not only having a meaning but being powerful and efficient in itself. But this is not specifically Japanese or Indonesian. You will find the same in the Middle East, exactly the same. And even in the Jewish tradition too, letters have a meaning and can be very powerful, even letters alone. So, but now, well, Islam in Indonesia is changing and it's less acceptable. So this is the reason. Maybe we can say that this began to be neglected, let's say a few decades ago, maybe. As the neglected dimension, we can use the same expression, the same sentence for the glass itself, because glass as a medium has been very often overlooked by the people. It has its revival time, of course, this is true. But for people from the academy, as mentioned by Anissa, the canvas is much, much higher than paper, than leather, and than glass. And it's much more difficult if you think about the painting as an economic activity, just on this very prosaic point of view. It's much more difficult to say glass painting than canvas. So you have a painting on canvas, it falls on the floor, it's okay. It's, you can put it back on the wall. With glass, it's broken. That's why in the 90s or 2000s, some people tried to replace glass with plexiglass. But plexiglass is it's not very interesting compared to glass because it's a tendency to change. Yes, yellowish. Yeah, it's quite ugly actually.
Yeah, so any more questions from the audience? Faiza?
Yeah, apologies if this was covered before. I'm wondering if there is a prospect for revivalism of particular art forms, and I think maybe a kind of rethinking about in the light of today's socio-political landscape. Then, what kind of power is represented through this art, and if there is a kind of re-engagement maybe with the artists that's discussed today.
Yeah, I think what is interesting about, I think the image of Srabat itself, I don't know if you know sort of the history when it first, or when it's sort of like early, when it was early circulation.
No, I have no idea.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to find old figures, old pictures.
Mm-hmm.
It's very difficult. You may find old pictures on wood, like this one,
Mm-hmm.
which is here in the Asian Civilization Museum.
Mm-hmm.
So second half of the 19th century, maybe you will find this kind of panel of wood made carved in the 18th century for the oldest, maybe. But for older items, I think it's practically impossible.
Yeah.
But I would say that we shouldn't focus on Srabat, on this one, because it's not so important inside this revivalist movement of glass painting. First, it's specifically Cirebonese, and you have revival in Central Java too, with other themes, other pictures first. And beside this, we have shown in two other slides that kind of paintings on glass, which are much more popular than this one right now, and which are sought after by a lot of collectors, of people who just want to have paintings at home. No, later, much later, in the latest part of the, right before the last part of the presentation. Later, go ahead. Yeah. Yes, this, for instance, is more popular, and the following ones too are this or the others. So that kind of psychedelic wayang is much more popular. People love it. Or this one. Well, Pirous people will not collect Srabat, definitely. But this is, for them, much more meaningful and more important. And according to the mainstream of Indonesian Islam right now.
But it's also very interesting to note that, you know, a lot of motifs from Cirebon, right? It sort of like features a lot of composites. So Srabat is a composite, and then the Paksi Nagaliman, right? It's also a composite of Paksi.
Yes, it's a bird. Yes, a dragon. Bird, dragon, and elephant.
And elephants. And it's very like inherent to the history of Cirebonese Sultanate, which is an Islamic sultanate that was established in the 15th century, right? And I think the importance of, you know, the motifs that also Haryadi often incorporate as well in his works are that, you know, these motifs also show that there are cultural absorption and, you know, cultural translations of previous belief system, previous cultural systems into Islamic one, and vice versa. That, you know, it's that Islam and Cirebon are open to sort of like absorbing these visuals and these images, and as a way to show the transition between civilizations, right? I think Pak Opan, one of the sort of experts that we met before, Radi, you brought me to Pak Opan, and Jérôme, you met with Pak Opan as well. He's an expert on glass painting. That he told me once that images like Srabat, images like these composites, like these composites are images that accompany shifts of civilization from Hindu Buddhism to Islam, but it doesn't erase what, you know, what existed before. And I think that's the beauty of it, especially, you know, when we are faced with, you know, a more monolithic idea of religion, right? We have a much more like harder sort of view on religion, and I think it's very important then to look at, you know, the kind of exchanges, the kind of conversations that we have through images, even. Yeah. All right, maybe one last question, yes?
It's just a quick two-part question. In regards to the process of the glass painting, is there a special paint that is used in order to adhere to the glass? And also, the color seems so incredibly vibrant. Does glass actually help preserve the vibrancy of the art, or does it make it more fragile, provided you don't drop it, of course?
Yeah, glass painting has always used enamel, iron for iron painting, paint for iron, and then the glass is just ordinary glass, but the glass is maybe they choose the thicker glass for the less fragile, and the brand of the paint is always like sometimes it's a cheap brand of is only the brand that we can find everywhere. Yeah, that's why it's called
people's painting.
Yeah, like the people's painting. Like yes, all people can make a glass painting. Yeah, that's why it's cheap. It's cheap, and then for the production, it's a cheap product. But I don't know. Even the painting it is 20 years. I think 20, 30 years old. But the color is still vibrant until now. I don't know. It's good to use it. Even it's a cheap things. Yeah, maybe it's.
And maybe just better quality back then. I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe.
Yes, maybe one last question.
Thanks. I'd just like to know, behind, after the artists have painted the painting on glass, is there backing behind to sort of protect
Yeah.
paint from being scratched?
Yeah. Sometimes it's protect is just for, with the wood, just wood, or maybe because it's when the paint is dry, it's hard to scratch. Yeah, it's hard to press, and then it's only put the wood on it, and then yeah, that's all. We can put it on a wall. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Please.